So you knew that you had this ability from a fairly young age. Your educational background was in economics, not in writing or publishing or anything like that. So that's how I assume you became connected to Mises through an interest in
I think so.
economics more than publishing.
Yes, yes, yes. I think
Okay.
that's right. But I'm not sure that I knew that I had skills as a writer. And I went to journalism school very quickly after undergraduate,
Oh.
and I was terrible. And I was really terrible. And the editors would call me and say, "Look, this is just dreadful and boring. Read this book, read this book." And so I read, 4 or 5 books about writing, and I quickly got better. I've always been good at sort of adapting to the new thing. So I became a good writer pretty quickly, actually, after my undergrad. But academic writing is different from writing that anybody wants to read. So I
Mm.
was very good at academic writing as a result of academic training, but I wasn't able to actually put 2 sentences together that anybody wanted to read.
That's really interesting because I said at the beginning of the show what I admire is your ability. It's an ability that a lot of people have, certainly Tom Woods, Bob Murphy, a lot of other people that I've interviewed, the ability to take information, even information that on the surface you would say a lot of people might not be interested in this. And you make it palatable and you make it entertaining. And I think that just from struggling with, like, I used to teach history to
Yeah.
a lot of disinterested teenagers and taking, the core curriculum stuff that I had to cover and transform it into an entertaining story that was going to hold the attention of, people who wanted to be out smoking pot and having sex. And, I couldn't offer any of those things in my classroom, to hold their interest. That was a real trick. So I admire anybody who has the ability to do that on a large scale like you do. But that's interesting that you say in the beginning you're writing for academics, which is usually, from what I've read, fairly dreadful. The
It's
academics
dreadful.
writing to each other.
No, it's dreadful, and
Yeah.
there's no consuming public, and it has to do with the whole problem of school itself. I mean, you don't get in the habit when you're in school of providing value to others. You get in the habit of complying with a kind of regime.
Mm.
And it's a very different kind of writing if you expect people to actually read it and to gain something from it. I mean, you're writing to provide value to others rather than just comply with a mandate, and that's a completely different mindset. I mean, you have to learn how to communicate, say something meaningful, hopefully give somebody a takeaway that makes their life slightly better. I mean, these are great challenges, and it takes a while to get good at that, actually.
Yeah, and you definitely have done that. I mean, I've been at events where, you were there, and I think this was like Liberty Forum within the last couple of years, and somebody was supposed to speak and they didn't show up. So the move was just to say, Jeffrey Tucker, go up there and talk for an hour. And
Yeah.
and you can do it
Yeah,
like
not
that.
a problem. Not
So
a problem. Hey,
when you
let me tell you
think,
something about this. As long as you want to talk about my speaking, I got to tell you, I've learned over the years, and I suppose the people are different, but I am just so much better when I don't put a bit of thought into what I'm going to speak about.
why do you think that is?
I think it's actually, to tell you the truth, Brett. I mean, and I can't say this applies to anybody else, but I have to terrify myself. I have to like alarm myself and give myself a sense of like utter metaphysical fear. I have to like plunge into the outer darkness of unknowingness
Mm.
in order to give myself really. I do think it's physical. I pump my body full of adrenaline, and it shoots into my brain, and my brains start to fire in ways that are not normal, and I become addicted to that sort of physiological phenomenon in order to give a good speech. But in order to achieve that, I really have to have a sense of extreme uncertainty, nervousness, and really just the terror of the darkness in order to generate that sort of special mindset.
We
So that's why I do it.
we talk a lot on the show about comfort zones and the need to break out of them,
Yeah.
especially lately, with respect to productivity or creativity. Do you think that if you got up there extremely well rehearsed and comfortable, you would just wind up delivering something that was more bland?
I know this from
Yeah.
experience. I mean, I've done this. I've had big speaking engagements, where it's like, let's get Jeffrey Tucker, and there are hundreds of people there, and everybody just they can't wait to hear what I have to say. And the bigger, more formal, more sort of hype that surrounds the experience, the more you're tempted to prepare.
Mm. Mm.
And so then I've written a page of notes. I boiled those down to 5 points, points, expanded them, put A, B, and C. Written an outline really, and then got up there and spoken. And very quickly, within the first 5 minutes, I realized that I've done something wrong, that people are not interested, and I'm not interested, and the energy in the room just begins to like fall. And once that begins to happen, it's a disaster. There's almost no way to dig out of it, and so then you make yourself nervous, and then suddenly you're just getting through. And I've had those experiences, but every time I ever have is because I had too much prepared. So I've learned, and I remember the first time I thought this. I thought, my God, am I better? Actually, here's what taught me the lesson. I was in Vienna. I think it was maybe 2000. 7 or 8 or something like that, and I had to do. I was in Salamanca, and I was in a big hall speaking, and I was supposed to speak about the history of printing. I had a big page of notes, and I'm going through, the early Chinese origins of how they printed, and how that led to the Gutenberg press, and how that changed things, and all this nonsense. And I had probably about 45 minutes worth of material, and I was in about 20 minutes into it, and I looked up into the choir loft. I think it must have been an old church. Yeah, I looked up into the choir loft, and I said, I'm looking up there now in this 600-year-old building, and I wondered, what did people sing about? What did this room sound like? And what was the message you heard? And then I stopped and I said, what I think they sing about? I think they sing about economics. And I said, there's a parable in the Bible, and it's about a pearl trader who buys low and sells high. It's a beautiful story, but there's a song that goes with it. And it goes like this. And from memory, I began to sing this Gregorian chant. Okay? Mm-hmm. In the course of my talk. And then I finished it, and I riffed a little bit about the relationship of the music and the words and what it means for our, the struggle against scarcity. And then I suddenly panicked. I thought, oh my God, I have left my prepared text so much. So I dipped back into my prepared text and ended my speech. So everybody loved the speech. It was all great success. But I went back and I watched the video of that, and I watched my face, and I listened to the words, and I thought, what is the most interesting part of the speech? And by far, it was the part where I extemporaneously began to speak from the heart. And by comparison, everything else, that was in Technicolor, everything else is in black and white. Mm-hmm. And I realized for the first time, I thought, that 7 or 8 minutes there that I just improvised, what if I could take those 7 or 8 minutes and expand them out to 45 minutes to an hour and exclude all other material? What would happen then? And so it was when I viewed that speech, I realized I have to change. I have to like embrace, the uncertainty of what I'm about to talk about, and have like a profound confidence in my own heart, and in my mind, and in my embedded knowledge, and in my love of the audience and the love of the topic. That's what has to get me through. And I have to take this leap, essentially, out of the plane every time I get up and speak. And I've never turned back.
You've walked off stage, though, and said to yourself, I just bombed. You've had that experience?
I have had that experience. And it's depressing. And it's almost always because I'm not afraid enough. I don't have enough adrenaline pumping through me. It's I feel it like it's almost biological. It's like I'm just talking, and it's not interesting, or I've prepared my remarks or something like that. There's always a reason why I've bombed, and people don't typically say to me, "That was a terrible speech." But what they say is, "I enjoyed your talk today." And there's something you hear and you're like, oh, I wasn't any good, was I?
Yeah, that was okay. It was okay. Yeah.
It was fine. I was appreciated that.
Mm, yep, yep.
But
So
like this last Saturday, I was speaking at the Atlanta LP, and I had no idea what I was going to say. I mean, truly, I had no idea. And I got up there, and I had just gotten back from the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and I said, I want to talk to you about something that just happened to me. And it was touring this museum. And I began to speak, and an hour later, I was done, and it was good. It was good. I mean, when you see people crying in the audience, when people jump out of their seats at the end, you know something good happened.